All right, everyone. I am so stoked to introduce you to Chris Mann. Chris Mann is no stranger to the spotlight. His debut album, Roads, hit #1 on Billboard's Heat Seekers chart and appeared as the Billboard Top 200 on the iTunes chart. Chris has starred in his own concert and holiday TV specials for PBS, Chris Mann in Concert, A Man for All Seasons, and Home for Christmas. Riding the waves of success, he toured to sold-out audiences across America, Mexico, and Asia. Chris lit up the global audience with his 2012 post-Super Bowl performance on NBC's The Voice, which was watched by a record-breaking 37.6 million viewers. His chart-topping duet with superstar Christina Aguilera solidified him as one of the most unique voices in the history of the show. Chris was personally cast by Sir Cameron Mackintosh and Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber as the Phantom in the Phantom of the Opera's 25th anniversary tour. Mann donned the iconic mask for over 700 performances, with critics hailing him as the best Phantom since Michael Crawford. If you haven't heard of Chris Mann before, you certainly have now from his hilarious and incredible viral videos on social media, Hello from the Inside and My Corona in under 24 hours. Let's give it up for Chris Mann.
Hello from self-quarantine. I'm begging Amazon to please, after sending more soap, can you please figure out how to send a box of my friends to my house? I'm so bored. Help me. I'm so bored. Help me. I'm so bored. I'm so bored.
But what I wanted to ask you first is, what is the biggest change for you since now music is everywhere, since we've been in quarantine? Like, what have you seen that's been the biggest difference for you?
With music in quarantine?
Yeah, just with music. Yeah, with your music getting out there. I mean,
Oh.
obviously you have the viral videos, you just launched a new single and all that, but like, what has been that process and what's been the biggest change?
Well, this is going to get a little deep right off the bat, or it may be too soon, but we're going to dive in.
Go for it.
Any artists who are watching, I'll speak from my own experience, and Mindy knows this from working with me, but I've had a lot of really wonderful opportunities. I've been doing this for a long time, 15 years probably, where I've been on and off labels and getting known for certain genres, and then trying different genres, or maybe having a turn in the path and trying this and feeling confused about my voice and feeling confused about who I'm supposed to be as a artist. And so and it hasn't been great. Like, it hasn't felt great. But when quarantine happened, I, without realizing it or meaning to, I got put into a corner, and had taken away all my resources of like outsourcing engineers or producers or basically other opinions. And I have been writing from a very authentic, I give no shits place for the first time ever, where I'm not thinking like, this is what this audience wants to hear. And it's like basically a little bit disingenuous. I was so trapped in like trying to please. And so the biggest change for quarantine has been that I was literally just having fun and not thinking about offending or impressing or anything. And then all of a sudden it's everywhere and people are connecting to what I'm saying. I'm having fun. All these things that I thought, wow, why did it take me so long to just sort of do this for me? I think it's been really liberating to take control of myself back again, when it's easy to lose yourself in this business.
That's incredible. I mean, you think it's exact opposite, right? You're on your own and you don't have all that feedback and all these people who are trying to help you create the product that the audience is going to like the best. And in the reality is you just tapped into something in yourself and you trusted yourself. And that's actually what brought you the most success. And it almost has to make you believe that that is the path forward for everyone. It's not going to be any one, but it's, you know, who am I actually, and turning out all those voices. And you've managed to find an opportunity to do that because of this circumstance. What a great way to flip the script.
Well, like I said, I had no intention of any of this happening. If for those of you who don't know, I did this one really ridiculous video where I parodied my Sharona. I'm like, what is the original called? I don't know. But it came from, 6 weeks ago when we were just starting all this quarantine talk. People were scared. We were too. I did that, went to the grocery store and like was fighting to get the basic necessities, the toilet paper. I couldn't find a parking spot, like all the things that we, which are now unfortunately kind of normal. We're like, put our mask on, but it wasn't 6 weeks ago. And I came home, put my son to bed, and all my concerts had just been canceled. So I was unemployed, and I just sort of took my frustration out making this really dumb video, and I thought nothing of it. And then it had 20 million views in 4 days. And now it's set off like literally like an entire other career in 5 weeks that I had never, that I always wanted, but I had no idea how to achieve. And it happened on its own.
When my Corona first came out, obviously, because I text you and I was like, I'm so happy that everybody gets to see how wicked funny you are. Because I think sometimes they see you like up there on these like power ballads and they have this and they don't get to see like how witty and how clever and this like interaction. And I was like, I'm so glad the world gets to see you kind of in that element now. And it makes me very happy for you, because I certainly have seen that side, and I'm glad everybody else gets to see that. So
yeah, well, it was a problem because I would get I couldn't get auditions I wanted because I was perceived as being a certain type, which was usually like very serious, and he can't do comedy. Like I couldn't get in to be seen for Waitress because I couldn't do comedy, and they like had no idea what I could do. So it's a real thing as a performer to be typecast, and anybody that's seen my show live knows that in between like really beautiful songs, I basically cut up and dropped the F-bomb, and it turns into a whole other thing. But it became very confusing because everyone was like, oh, this is so fun and funny, so funny, you're so funny and funny. And I was like, well, I'm working really hard up here singing. Do you have any idea how many lessons I've had with Mindy? But they're like, oh yeah, the singing, but you're so funny. And I was like, well, and so the last couple of months, my wife and I have been trying to, because I don't know anymore. I was like, I guess I need to, how do I lean into that in my show? And then the first time that I tried was my Corona. And even that wasn't even with any intention, but nonetheless. So I really have found like a spiritual sort of bowled over by the fact that when truly authentic, what can happen. And it makes me feel a little bad about everything I've done before. It always me in some way, but right now is me, like basically me, because I don't take myself that seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what aging is, I feel like, in some ways, right? We all go through that metamorphosis. You spend so much time looking outwards to please, and it takes sometimes a really big moment for you to look inside and say, okay, I don't need to get this from outside anymore. And then when you are who you're supposed to be, suddenly you're getting that outward validation that you kind of had been looking for anyway, but it just comes from being yourself. I think what you're describing is a really natural process, and you can't hate. I hope you don't hate what came before in any way, because
no, I love it. I'm very proud of it. Yeah, and you mentioned aging, and so like when I finally ever get out of my 20s and enter my 30s, maybe I'll just continue to be wiser.
I mean, maybe we'll meet there, because
yeah, I don't know what it's like to be 30. Just to bring it back to the voice, like not the show, but the mechanism. If the other thing that's cool right now, and we Mindy can take over here, something that I've had that in my voice is a very versatile voice, and I've always been good enough to like get attention from labels or whatever, but it was never that simple to figure out like, well, what are they selling? And it's easy. I can look back on that and understand that. But where these parodies and what I'm doing right now are allowing me to like I said, I don't have to answer to anybody or worry about it. I just did a Garth Brooks one, like as full twang as I could do. I've done pop. I'm using my voice how I want to, and it's now my greatest asset. Was before I was very much told like this is a problem. But right now I'm feeling liberated there. But if maybe you have some thoughts on cross genre or flexibility, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I want to go into, but he could probably show you the text I sent him when he came out with the daycare closes. And I was like, what is this yummy, like deepness coming in? I'm like, wow, you're going to make some people swoon with some of those bass notes coming in.
Yeah, well, you know that I'm a classical trained, vocal performance major. I was trained as a baritone, but really I believe that I'm a leggero tenor, but I didn't know that. And and so I still am trying, and what I've worked on with you the most is how to lighten up and trust like the sounds I do make up there. I'm used to having to like spread and push and do all these strainy things when what I think sounds really light and falsetto is actually not as much as I would think. But yeah, that fa is a baritone bottom with like this endless top, and that's the way I feel my voice is. It's just a matter of like bridging it together. So.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, is that obviously when we had our first conversation, when you reached out to me and we were talking about this and you wanted to go from classical to the contemporary side, how difficult was that decision to come in? Like, what was like your mental state on that? And like, what were some of because I think that's really scary for a lot of people who have had success in there, not realizing that they could cross train. So like, what helped you lead to that decision? And like, was there anything like from an emotional, mental component that you had to kind of work through in there? Because I know we had some tug of war moments kind of going on and like frustration where I was like, just trust the process because you're so fast at picking things up that we had to kind of break some muscle memory things. Besides that, was there anything in there that or advice that you could give someone who maybe was thinking about going through that cross training, what that would be?
Right. I'm pretty sure it was general desperation. That's why I called you.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but
please. How much money do you need? Yeah, I mean, I luckily and I don't think you'll disagree with me here, but the voice student now versus the voice student in college, the ego is not there. And I used to be very defensive in college and afraid of not being perfect and all these things. No. So I would say, number one, if you can let any of that ego go, then you're going to have a lot better time with a voice lesson in general. But so with that in mind, I knew that there are things that I do very easily, and then there are sounds that I was trying to make that are really hard for me, and I didn't understand. I was really annoyed. I'm like, why is this so hard for me? I've been doing this so long, and I'm, accomplished. Why is this so hard for me? So I've never really had training like what I've had with Mindy, where I don't even know how to describe it, but focusing my tone. It doesn't even seem like cross genre. It's all just voice, but thinking things in a different way and vowels and taking pressure off. And it did take a period of time before things started to sort of click. And that's because you do have to work out your muscles. And I did. Like I do, and I certainly don't have it figured out. Please don't get me wrong. But I also I do the work when I am given the work. And so, and then over the course of months and months, we would have lessons and we'd be like, oh, well, that was easy. And it would have been like impossible before or whatever. And you start to see it. And that is gratifying. It's like going to the gym and you lose weight or whatever. You're like, yeah, I'll keep going. But yeah, I think I came into you because I identified a weakness where I was trying to do better. And that was where we started. But it started off from like I need help place, which is what I was saying to everyone else, is like, come at it from a humble background. If you want to get help, then you have to ask for help and mean it and want it.
Yeah.
But that's actually one of the things that's really knocked my socks off in all these interviews. But I think you probably the most so. You are a highly trained singer, highly experienced, have done the most challenging roles. For someone with your experience and training and caliber to say, I am still learning my voice, I have to approach it with humility, I'm discovering new things every day. I mean, that is incredible for our artists listening to hear, I think, and also really hopefully empowering for the coaches to know that, you know, these pockets exist for people.
Sure. Yeah. And it's about finding the right partnership. And, you know, our good friend Anthony Evans referred me to Mindy, and I've had so many voice teachers. And through that experience, I think you also identify who you want to listen to. But I've also earned that right and that knowledge through trusting a lot of different people, and then and some maybe I shouldn't have, but it's you know, you have to go through the motions and understand what is right and what is wrong in order to be able to make educated choices for yourself.
Can you tell us a little bit about any vocal struggle, any period in your life where you felt a vocal struggle and how you've come through it?
Mm-hmm. So luckily I've never had any vocal injuries, though I've occasionally thought like surely something's wrong, and then it wasn't. But
I always love those phone calls.
Something's wrong. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Mindy. I mean, I've certainly had my share. Like I've called Mindy seconds before I was supposed to go out on stage and been like, you have to fix this. Yeah, no, believe me, I'm a mental singer as well, like in a bad way. Like I get really heady. But in terms of struggles, I think why I got in touch with you mainly was because I was having serious reflux, or what I would have thought was reflux. Something was going on. You know, we've had a son in the last 2 years. I'm not sleeping as much. I'm eating really late. I've always had sinus problems. I get sick a lot. It's really frustrating. And so and of course, like through the winter into the holidays, like I'm very busy with symphony concerts for Christmas or whatever. And so, and traveling, I always have to travel. That's one of the main things I'm happy about right now, being quarantined / working on the internet, is like, man, if I could never leave home again, that would be the best. Because you always have to fly somewhere, which means you're going to be dehydrated, and then you're going to be tired, and then you're in a new place and it's really dry. And I mean, it's like, and I did this with Phantom too. Like when I played Phantom, and you're traveling every 2 weeks to 2 months, like you go in a new theater and there's dust, and everyone has the same problems. And flying in the day of a concert is always a challenge, but the more you do them, the more you want to like wait to the last minute to get there. But I guess the point is that the difficulty I've had is identifying, I had like a gut issue is what it turned out. So I was referred to a GI through you. I had SIBO, which I took this antibiotic that literally in like 2 days, I felt different. That was pushing, not allowing for my stomach to empty properly. So it was like pushing up, and then that was causing somehow with like postnasal drip. It was just a combination of a whole bunch of stuff. But singing on that is very challenging. So I would go to Mindy and be like, why does my middle register sound like a chainsaw?
And what would I always say? I would say, when are you going to go see Rena? Like, I can't get you with a magic wand here. Go see Dr. G.
Yeah.
Because I have a wand.
Come on,
girl.
You did.
It is a wand.
Back. It's what the whole importance of a voice team is. It's like, here's here, and like having that totally reliable, trustworthy network so that we can better the artist. I mean, that's that.
And now I'm off it a bit because of quarantine, and I'm starting to slowly eat later and later, and I wake up feeling worse. And so at least I know, and I think chocolate, like I did not think I eat a pound of it a night. And now I like know that that's a thing for me. And again, it took me so long to figure out that really was a problem. But if I choose to ignore the things that I know trigger me, then I'm going to have these issues when I need to be on to sing. And I'll be like, well, you probably shouldn't have done all these things to make it harder for you now.
I mean, that's the special sauce. Is a patient performer who is super invested, and you've never pushed back. And I think that's where you found those successes, and then you have translated it into a lifestyle. And when you do,
and I'm not perfect with it at all. I
Well,
always
when you
listen
get
and
to
I'll
your
be like, yeah,
30s,
and then
you
I
will
go
be.
eat my chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you hit your 30s, like that's when it really kicks in. So
Because I'm still like 26,
yeah,
5.
it'll come.
whatever.
It'll come.
Yeah, I'm still partying.
What do you think were the pivotal moments in your career that you think back still and you're like, wow, I can't believe that really happened?
Well, I'm undoubtedly in one right now, which is really incredible. And I think I understand what it is because of how hard I've worked in the past to identify that I'm in a moment right now and wanting to make sure that I seize the moment. The kind of attention that these videos are getting is 100 times more than the attention I got on The Voice, which is really amazing to say. And it also feels good that it isn't just relying on being on Christina Aguilera's team, which is all it's ever been. It's like, oh, Christina. And of course, Christina's amazing, but it wasn't really about anything that I did. It was just, at least it didn't feel that way. But in one now and trying to make sure that I move forward and be creative in a way that after quarantine can still be relevant, and TBD on that. Obviously, The Voice was a huge accolade. My episode premiered after the Super Bowl in 2012. And at the time, that was the biggest sort of all at once attention thing that I'd ever had. And, but this is what I'm doing now is like a globally viral thing, which is bigger than doing something. I mean, it's just bizarre, but more personally, of course, being cast in Phantom was the biggest challenge I've ever had, and was obviously something I'm incredibly proud of. And I think one of my most formative experiences was when I lost my first record deal in 2008 when I was signed to Sony. I was incredibly depressed after that happened, and I call it the 72 hours of darkness, where my friends rallied around me and I was just a mess, and I was just like really, really drunk and was just so sad. And then I was living in New York at the time, and we were in Central Park and we ran out of booze, and I didn't want to be around anyone anyway, so I said, I'll go get more. So I walked out onto Central Park West, and I physically ran into Clive Davis, like bumped into Clive Davis. And I had worked with him on another thing that didn't happen, but he knew that I had just been dropped because they fired everyone at the label. And he's like, you know what, come up to my office. So I did. And I thought, I know, I was like, I'm not done. Like, why would I run into Clive Davis on the street in this moment? And so I moved on from my 72 hours of darkness. I was like, okay, let's go. And I've done that so many times. And when I was younger, I always everyone always knew that I landed on my feet. But the older I've gotten, I turned 38 in tomorrow, 2 days from now, on the 5th of May. But I've lost a bit of that spunk and that like unbridled confidence. And so I've actually just was in a publication talking about, I thought I'd spent my 9 lives, and look, here we are with this, like, if this is my 9th one, it's the biggest one yet. And I didn't know that I was going to have another go round of this. So I think the lesson is that anybody who's genuinely trying to get into this awful business is that you have to be ready to, I've been doing this for 20 years. So like, you're in it for the long haul, and it's going to be really fun and awesome and exciting, and it's going to be really horrible. And so if you're not ready to do both and work through both, and then, I've been taking voice lessons for 25 years or something. So be ready to keep working on your craft and finding Mindy, or when you're, this never stops. And so I'm proud of all of my accolades because they've come you know, over 20 years, and they're not just all at once and then gone. I could go back and talk about things that I'm proud of all the whole time, and they're not all good things. They're just really valuable lessons. So.
But you've had some incredible opportunities of duets with some really amazing leading ladies. I mean, obviously we know Christina. You already know my personal favorite is the one that you sing with India Ari. And it's like my, if you have not heard that song, everybody, like seriously, that is butter. Thank you. Amazing. And then recently you just sang with Renee Fleming, which is so amazing. But I just want to know, like, obviously, who's next on your wish list? Like, if you could like put this out here right now into the universe and say, I mean, literally, you've had the pop, you've had the indie artist, and now you've had like the queen of classical. I mean, you've like literally hit like 3 of the top female. Like, who do you want to see yourself with next on a duet? Besides me,
I would obviously you. And, I would love. I mean, now I'm thinking of things more like an actor. So I would love to like be in a funny or fun video with, you know, men and women, including like a Kristen Wiig and Amy Poehler to Paul Rudd to, you know, I love Demi Lovato. I think is so fierce. She's so good. Who else do I want to say? I mean, I really want to work with Kristen Chenoweth really bad. And there may have been something on the calendar that got bumped because of Corona. But hopefully that happens. Canceled. Yeah, hopefully that happens again. But and the Renee thing was I was super nervous for that because she is the queen and we studied her in school, but she ended up being just as sweet as anybody. And honestly, she comes from a very such a classical world that she didn't understand anything that I did. It's like I was in a whole nother industry to her, and so she wanted to talk about that and learn and which I appreciated, that, you know, to be inquisitive. And she was a team player, and we were doing Alleluia together, and the fact that I of course wanted her to have to do as little work as possible, because I just was trying, I don't know, I thought maybe that would be the best way to go. And so I had learned a couple harmony parts for myself, so I would easily be able to, in soundcheck, be like, well, I can help, I can just do this, or I can do that, or whatever, because it's not like we rehearsed it before we did it. And then and she ultimately, I
like literally would die on that, like, oh, I'm just gonna sing with Renee, but we're not gonna rehearse.
No. We did it once, and then we did it in the show. And she was like a team player as well. Like, she wasn't coming in, which I didn't know how she is, like, because you could easily get someone who's being a snob or something, and she certainly wasn't. She was a collaborator, and that's what you hope for, and that's what I was prepared to be as well, to make it easy, fun, and deliver. And I think as I continue moving forward, that will continue to be my charge, is to like take the opportunity, be super prepared, and then have a lot of fun with it and deliver. And I think that's all that we can do. And my entire career didn't hinge on that moment as it would have maybe in my 20s, if you think like, this is it. Like, no, like there's no, take the pressure off and just like enjoy the moment and deliver. So, but those are my duet people.
Duet and acting. All right, we're gonna see you on this. We're gonna see you on the screen. That's gonna be be fun. So, well,
no more tour.
Yeah, no kidding. You're like, I'm gonna be here.
That's not true. There's no way that's true.
Well, I'm super stoked for everybody to see what you're putting out next. You know, and just like congratulations for making people laugh during this time and for providing joy and love and encouragement. Like that in and of itself is a gift. And besides you just being a singer, like for people who don't understand the true talent that you really have as a vocalist, just the fact that you're able to share the humor in such a really horrible time for a lot of people is really a gift that I'm glad everybody kind of gets to see that side of you, and that you get to share that. So I appreciate it. And I know pretty much the world does, because look at how much success you've had with it. So
thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. And all right,
have a good rest of the day.
I'll see you guys soon. Okay.
I am shouting out to neighbors who I used to like to see when we were outside and free. Is there something else to watch besides the news and Finding Dory? The social distance between us, and I'm freaking out. Hello from the inside. It's just me and myself.